the second episode in the Pantheon of the Chaos Gods. Last episode we covered Khorne, so today we're actually going to be covering Slaanesh. And as always, I'm going to be reading from the 6th edition Hordes of Chaos book, and then into the 8th edition Demons of Chaos book. I was reading the difference between the 7th and 8th edition Demons of Chaos book, and it's the same exact text. The 8th edition just looks a little bit more fancy. One thing to note, though, about Hordes of Chaos. So it used to be that Chaos was a book just called Chaos. Then it became Warriors of Chaos, then Hordes of Chaos, then Warriors of Chaos again, and Demons of Chaos and Beasts of Chaos. The Hordes of Chaos used to cover both demons and mortals. It's actually divided that exact way in the book. And Beastmen at one point were actually rolled into the Chaos Codex as well, or Army Book. So through the editions and through the years, there's been a lot of division and inclusion and division and inclusion. From Total War Warhammer's perspective, though, each of these is their own race. The big speculation from what we've heard from one of the articles in the early days of Total War Warhammer 1 was that it's going to be broken into 3 installments, with the first one being the Old World, the second one being the New World, and the third one being consisting a lot of the Demons of Chaos, and what a lot of people think is going to be when we're going to start seeing a lot of these gods. So that's again why I don't dive deep on all of the units of the Chaos Gods. I just like to kind of give you guys a little taster of them, but we'll start off with Slaanesh, the Dark Prince. And again, just a quick reminder here, some of this information will be kind of repeat because it is going to be 2 of the same styles of blurbs and to inform you about Slaanesh, but from 2 different editions. So, Slaanesh, the Dark Prince. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince of Chaos, is the youngest of the 4 greater Chaos Gods. Known under a multitude of names, including Shornal and Landshore, the Lord of Pleasure is patron of all things beautiful and seductive. Master of excess and creative power, his realms of influence include music, art, and passion, the embodiment of indulgence in all of its forms. Slaanesh's allure is highly addictive, and those who follow him are quickly overcome by the seductive vices of pride, arrogance, and excess. Divinely beautiful and alluring, Slaanesh is portrayed as exuding a palpable and irresistible charm. Slender, long-limbed, and elegant, the god is completely androgynous and defies the natural order of the world. He teases the souls of his enemies from their bodies as they gaze with adoration and longing with the hidden depths of his lustrous eyes. Slaanesh, in his many guises, is honored all throughout the Northlands, as well as within the Old World. The tribesmen of the North seek the favor of Slaanesh for personal gain, for the Dark Prince of Chaos has it within his power to instill his followers with a portion of his radiant glory, ensuring that mere mortals will fall at their feet in devotion. In ages past, a faction of the Elves of Ulthuan fell into perverted worship of the Lord of Pleasure, and this is what is rumored to have brought about the great division of that noble race. In hidden covens within the hearts of the greatest cities and throughout the decadent upper classes of society, secretive cults thrive. How many have inadvertently slipped into the tender embrace of Slaanesh as they succumb to the sins of self-indulgence? How many great leaders of men have turned to the Dark Prince of Chaos to secure their position or to gain the support and respect of their fellows? Slaanesh hungrily preys upon these mortal weaknesses and delights in the devotion that is heaped upon him. Champions of Slaanesh are majestic, charismatic leaders who are adored by their followers, and attract large bands. Such adoration is easy to embrace, and as the champion becomes more absorbed with his goal, he becomes more distant from his followers. His aloofness and otherworldly persona only fueling his adoration. The glories of Slaanesh are great, and Slaaneshi champions are immensely proud of the gifts bestowed upon them by the Dark Prince, bathing in the praise heaped up upon them by lesser mortals. They are imposing individuals with an allure and attraction that goes beyond mere physical beauty, and move with effortless grace and exquisite precision. The sheer presence of a champion of Slaanesh is inspiring. They are surrounded by an aura that delights others and drives them to acts of great loyalty and sacrifice. They become removed from mortal concerns, so that pain, fear, loyalty, and humanity are left behind, leaving them entirely focused on achieving their own ambitions. All other creatures become subservient to the will of the champion, that they're merely to give adulation or be destroyed. Which is true of actually a lot of what we see from the lore of the High Elves and the lore of the Dark Elves and the lore of the Dark Eldar from 40k, of the lore of the Emperor's Children from 40k. They're all about kind of like the fall from grace through arrogance and through that overall desire for perfection, because that's kind of what Slaanesh is all about. Is about perfection, but also about perversion and about ecstasy and sex and butt stuff. I mean, wait, what? But I mean, like, the Dark Elves are all about that, even in their current culture as is. And the Dark Eldar are constantly being hunted by Slaanesh in the Warhammer 40k universe. And, like, basically Slaanesh was born from all the excess and all of the sins, I guess you could say, the conventional sins of the Eldar race, and through this giant literal explosion of all these amalgamation of all these sins and all these emotions, it creates Slaanesh, and they crave and hunt, or he craves and hunts, it craves and hunts Dark Eldar. And the Dark Eldar can't feel anything for the most part. That's why they inflict pain, because it's the only way they can really start to feel things, and that's why they are so sadistic and crazy in their own way. And the Emperor's Children, God, it's totally flying out of my head right now. Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Emperor's Children, was all about perfection, and he's very Phoenician in his approach to things. A lot of the books talk about how he was always a big pursuer of art, and about music and art in both the sense of on plays or in actual sculptures. And it was all about the perfection, the craftsmanship, and a lot of his Marines, a lot of his Legion pursued these. So it's very interesting to see how Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, kind of spans a lot, and not just simply the fact that people like to have a lot of sex in Slaanesh, because he's all about that, seduction and such, but it's also about excess in every way possible. So we'll jump now here into the Dark Prince's realm, and we'll cover some more of those typical sins. In fact, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we'll hear from this, and you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking the fuck about. The Dark Prince's realm. The final domain in the realm of chaos belongs to Slaanesh, the decadent Dark Prince of Chaos. Slaanesh's realm is the smallest corner of the infernal regions, for he is the youngest of the Chaos Gods, and as yet his power is much overshadowed by his brothers. The Circles of Seduction. The Dark Prince's realm is divided into 6 different domains, arranged in concentric rings around Slaanesh's Palace of Pleasure. This domain is commonly thought a paradise by the mortal realms lured here, but nothing is precisely what it seems. Each region is formed around one of the 6 deadly seductions: avidity, gluttony, carnality, paramountcy, vainglory, and indolency. These circles are not only a continuous celebration of Slaanesh's needs and desires, but also his chief defense. An intruder must pass through each of the 6 circles in turn before reaching the palace within, an act of will that few souls, mortal or demonic, can perform. As one moves from circle to circle, the desire to succumb becomes increasingly overwhelming. Once mortals have sampled the pleasures of Slaanesh's realm, they cannot stop. Compelled towards excess, they think nothing of the consequences, only of the pleasure that the indulgence brings. Some, much too late, discover the trap that has been set for them, but this matters not to Slaanesh, who finds moans of ecstasy or cries of horror equally satisfactory, providing they are heartfelt. The circle of avidity forms the outermost boundary of Slaanesh's domain. The temptations within its borders seek to awaken an interloper's sense of greed. Gold is here, ingots and coins beyond counting. Precious stones are sunk deep into every wall, and gilded sculptures line every path. All who attempt to seize their wealth are doomed. The gemstones hatch demonic birthlings that burrow beneath the skin and eat their victim from inside to out. To lay but a finger upon Slaanesh's statuary is to join it. Your consciousness rendered immortal, but forever trapped in an immobile golden body. Should greed not ensnare, then the next circle is that of gluttony. With sumptuous banquets and rivers of wine, a single taste reduces the imbiber to a bloated fool whose only desire is to gorge until his tortured body gives way under the strain. Beyond the circle of gluttony lies that of carnality, a debauched place where all manner of fleshly pleasure may be sampled. Lissom maidens walk the verdant fields, their face and form seemingly sprung from heart's dearest desire. Yet to tryst with such a creature is purest folly, for there are clawed hands and serpent's teeth beneath the glamour, and an appetite for fleshly pleasure of a different sort. Upon entering the next circle, the traveler is greeted by the roar of an an adulating crowd, for this is the circle of paramountcy, where intruders are tempted with power and all that its applications. Armies, their numbers so great as to blacken the plains, greet those of martial bent, whilst the politically minded are also met in kind, with nations to guide and vassals to rule. For any traveler with the desire for personal power within his heart, this is a paradise of sorts for a time, a place where every whim is obeyed and every command fulfilled. Yet to tarry within the circle is to be overcome with paranoia, to see a dagger beneath every smile and poison in every chalice. The cheering throng becomes a torturous and inescapable prison. The circle of vainglory is a garden, its maze of paths thick with beautiful flowers and heavy with thorns. Here, unseen voices whisper reminders of past glories, of achievements great and small. Most deadly of all is the remembrance of circles conquered and temptations unheeded. Each step an intruder takes with the pride in his heart leads him further from this path, drawing him deeper and deeper into the choked undergrowth. There, he swiftly falls prey to the tearing briars and roots, whilst the chanting thorn children of the garden weave his every failure into a mocking epitaph. Last and most dangerous is the circle of indolency, a serene domain of heavenly choirs and perfumed seas. All within this circle, whether root and branch or stock and stone, works to lull the mind and senses. A single draught of the ambrosial waters can rob a mortal of purpose and will. To sleep here is to never again awaken. The lone and level sands that crunch underfoot are the desiccated husks of all those who have succumbed, and the ethereal voices are their souls in torment. If this final and most insidious of circles is traversed, then a traveler can finally ascend to the seat of Slaanesh's power. Slaanesh does not have a stronghold as such, merely a luxurious palace, wherein his demonic followers pay court. This shimmering Alcazar haunts the dreams and nightmares of mortals in a way that no other place can. It is said that contests in every manner of excess are to be found within. The palace and its fleshly walls pulse to the rhythms within. These debauched competitions occur in 6 great halls, each cavernous chamber devoted to one of the 6 deadly seductions of Slaanesh. Such are the incredible depths to which these earthly sins are pursued, that their practitioners pass beyond pleasure into torments so terrible that only the truest devotees of Slaanesh can take joy in them. The Prince of Chaos. Of all the dark gods, Slaanesh alone is divinely glamorous, long-limbed and elegant, with haunting androgynous beauty. It is impossible for a mortal to look upon that divine face without losing his soul. For all who see Slaanesh become slaves to his slightest whim. Slaanesh can assume male, female, or hermaphrodite form at will, though he mostly manifests himself as a young man, clean-limbed and fresh with the vigor of youth. Slaanesh is seductive, as only a mortal can be, disarming in his innocence, utterly beguiling in his manner. The sensual pleasures of art, music, and companionship fascinate Slaanesh, and he is drawn to mortals possessed of physical beauty and charm. Unlike the other Chaos gods, Slaanesh goes out of his way to court the affections of mortals, seeking to ensnare their souls in his web of excess. As such, his palace of pleasure is not home solely to demons and damned souls, it also entertains those mortals Slaanesh wishes to tempt. Though Khorne is the only god with an open dislike of Slaanesh, both Nurgle and Tzeentch are uneasy in his presence. This is due, in part, to the fact that all the Chaos gods embody Slaanesh's drive for excess. Khorne with his rage, Tzeentch with his schemes, and Nurgle with his love of pestilence. Lurking deep within the psyche of each of Slaanesh's brother gods is a suspicion that the influence of the Dark Prince is steadily gaining in strength, and that Slaanesh will perhaps one day eclipse them all. So you have a very kind of epic sounding name with Slaanesh, and I'll show you guys a really cool picture here. This kind of shows you all of the realms of the Dark Gods. We've got the Dark Prince's realm, the land of the Plague Lord, the realm of the Sorcerer, and the Blood God's domain. And I apologize for not showing this in the Khorne video, but we'll focus in on the Dark Prince's realm in this one. I don't want to show you so much of the other two, but we'll just kind of show these. Yeah, the other 2 or 3. we'll show you the Dark Prince's realm in this picture, and we'll jump on over to the other 2 as we do them in the other videos. But that pretty much kind of rounds out things for Slaanesh here. I gotta get to the portion of this book that goes into the actual units, but you get a real good sense for how Slaanesh kind of is always pulling the strings, more or less, of everything around him. Not so in the way that Tzeentch does, but kind of in the way that that even the other Chaos Gods are kind of thinking like, okay, are we somehow kind of gonna fall whim to this eventually? Is he gonna grow so powerful that we have to do something about him? But let's see here. We are coming up on... I always get all stuck up. So we've got the Keeper of Secrets, and those are the greater demons of Slaanesh, and they're really kind of grotesque. They've got a lot of clawed hands and like pincer hands and tits all over the place, quite literally tits all over the place. But then you're moving over to the Demonettes of Slaanesh, and these will kind of compare to your Bloodletters and the Plague Bearers that we'll hear about, and the such of the Pink Horrors and the such of the other gods. We have the Seekers of Slaanesh, which is a kind of a cavalry unit here that ride the steeds of Slaanesh, which is pretty sick. But then there's the Seeker Chariots of Slaanesh, which are basically chariots with those steeds of Slaanesh on them. And you've got Fiends of Slaanesh as well, followed by the Hellflayers of Slaanesh, and we're going to get on over to the Mask of Slaanesh, which is a greater demon of Slaanesh, just in the same way that they have the Bloodletters in Khorne. We also had a Scarbrand, I believe it was, Scarbrand. Had to double check real quick. Scarbrand, who was the special character greater demon for Khorne. So that rounds out Slaanesh here. Hopefully you guys got a really good idea of what's going on and how he kind of seduces his way into power, more or less. But we'll be covering next probably Tzeentch, and following up with Nurgle in the very end. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and if you do have any questions about the Dark Prince, or you have any other questions about some of the other gods or anything of the sort, just feel free to comment below, guys. But thanks for watching, have a good one, and take care.